Country Girl, and I'm going to be sharing with you guys today some of the big differences, the 10 big differences we noticed between Disney Tokyo and Disney US. Now, when I talk about Disney US, I'm speaking more about Disneyland West Coast being California than Disneyland East Coast being Walt Disney World. I've been to Walt Disney World, but it's been so long that things have changed. I went for a week back in 94, and then I went again like in 2000. So it's been a while since I've gone, and so I can't really speak if things are, as far as what they were when I went, that's the way they're different still, but more so as far as what's different compared to the California Disneyland. So our 10 biggest differences. Number one was, it was very, very clean. Now, I know all Disneylands are so clean. They have meticulous cleaning crews constantly going around, cleaning, sweeping, everything. But here was the big difference. Now, at Disneyland, I see those crews everywhere, constantly. When you're in lines, they're going the opposite way, cleaning. You see them everywhere, right? But at Disney Tokyo, they were very far and few in between. You did not see very many cleaning people, yet the place was so clean. Now, here's what it was people there just had more respect. Like in general, the city of Tokyo or Japan, they don't have trash cans because of the bombing threat that happened in the trash can. They got rid of all trash cans. So you don't have trash cans in the city, yet it's very clean. People pick up and keep their trash with them until they find a trash can to throw it away. And that carries through when you're at Disney Tokyo. People don't throw things on the ground. They just don't trash it like they do. Unfortunately, a lot of people do in the US. So it was just very clean, and it was done by the guests versus the actual, employees. So I thought that was pretty incredible. We literally saw at one point, a little kid had a juice box and it squeezed some juice on the ground, and the dad bent down with a paper towel and cleaned it up. Which I was just like, it's juice, it's gonna dry, you won't even see it. But he still bent down and dried it up. Another person spilled some of their popcorn, and so the mom was standing there guarding it while they went and found somebody to clean it. Like, it was popcorn, the birds are gonna eat it up, you know what I mean? Like, that was my thought. But yet they were very, very meticulous. You didn't see anybody in the lines climbing on things and destroying things. It was very different. And I thought that was really cool. Like, the kids were very well behaved. You didn't see temper tantrums. There were very few strollers. Most kids were walking. And then, like I said, there was a couple strollers here and there, but it wasn't this designated huge areas to stroller parking like we have in the US. And hey, I'm guilty. I bring a stroller still, and both of my kids are totally capable, as I saw this past trip, of walking. I do have to say, though, generally when we are at Disney California, we are bringing a lot more of our own food because we can bring stuff from our home. So that heavy bag is usually in the stroller, even if the kids aren't. It's kind of like a way of moving stuff around. But I think next time we might try just bringing a cooler and putting it in a locker or something instead. I don't know. We'll see. I like the convenience of having it, but then it's also inconvenient always having to go back and get our stroller. And the last few times what we've done is parked it at the beginning of a land, done the whole land, and picked it up on the way out. Or gone back to it when we needed to. So who knows? But there were very few strollers. It was very, very, very clean. And the other thing was, we saw one child who was throwing up, and it was like a full-on hazmat team was there. They had the place surrounded. They were spraying down the kid with disinfectant. They had everything. It was like a hazmat team when this one kid puked. I can't tell you, we've been to Disneyland a couple times where there was a stomach virus going around, and all the bathrooms had throw up in them. The flower boxes had throw up in them. There was throw up on the floor a bunch of times. And it was just, I know Disney has Code V, but there was a lot. And we just didn't see that. So I thought that was kind of interesting too, was how clean everything was, including the bathrooms. So the other thing we noticed was, what was that?
Don't forget the time when we were eating and that little girl kept throwing up in the restaurant. That didn't happen, luckily.
What are you talking about?
When we were at Disneyland one time with Jeanette, and that little girl just started to throw up in the restaurant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was...
We didn't have that, luckily.
Thank goodness that didn't happen there. But yeah, we've been at Disneyland where a little girl was throwing up in the restaurant, and they didn't remove her. The parents just kept letting her throw up all over everything. And we literally were like sitting right next to their table, and we just said, you know what, like at this point, I just want new food. Like this is disgusting, but you know, whole nother story. We've had some fun experiences at Disney. When you go as much as we do, we've got a lot of stories. But yeah, it was just very different. They kept everything very, very clean. And the kids weren't climbing on things. They weren't destroying things that we have had closed, like on Pirates, or well, now it's Pirates Lair, California, but it's still Tom Sawyer. Things that we've had to close down because of, you know, kids messing with them and vandalizing them and that kind of stuff were open. Same thing with Toontown. It just was so different. It was so different. So I thought that was real interesting. You just didn't see temper tantrums. You didn't see these things happening, which it was just different. So I thought that was really interesting, how respectful everybody was of the place. And that was really cool. The other thing was, like, the people that we did see that were cleaning people, they would be cleaning, but they also had like a second job. So they were cleaners, but then they also were either performing like art on the street. Like they would use the stuff and either perform like with water and a brush, make art, or they would find things and like make hidden Mickeys out of leaves or acorns or just whatever was on the ground. So they would take what was on the ground and like, rather than sweeping it up, they would turn it into like a little hidden Mickey. They also, some of them performed and did like little music numbers. So they were actually like, had multiple, you know, things that they did. They didn't just clean. So I thought that was really interesting too, was how they incorporated those together. That was, I think, a really big thing that we noticed, and it stood out throughout our whole trip, just how respectful everybody was. Like I said, if you dropped a piece of popcorn, people would bend over and pick it up. So, and there was just no trash. So I thought that was pretty interesting. The other thing was their bathrooms. Number 2 was their bathrooms are so luxurious, you guys. Like they have the traditional, most of the bathrooms, not all of them. Some of them were, you know, Americanized, just flush yourself toilets, but most of them were the traditional. And I talk about this in one of my vlogs, and I ended up cutting it out, but maybe I'm going to insert a clip here so you guys can see what I'm talking about, because these bathrooms were amazing. Okay. Amazing. Yeah. So this is the bathroom at Disneyland. Okay. I know this sounds funny, but look at this. Okay. So you disinfect your toilet. When you walk in, it actually starts playing music. So you hear that. And then you have the traditional Japanese toilets with the bidet, with the cleaner, with all kinds of stuff. It is the most advanced and nicest. Yes, if you don't want the music, but talk about the craziest. Yes, we share even the toilets with you on this journey. Wait, look at, she got one to work. So the soap comes out like a Mickey.
Well, I mean,
isn't that so cool? Never thought we'd be sharing a bathroom with you, but you know, we're sharing our journey with you, and that includes the fascinations of the bathrooms, right? Yeah, their bathrooms are so clean and nice. It's amazing. Okay, so amazing bathrooms, right? And just the Mickey soap was so cool. Everything was just amazing. And I know that sounds so funny because it was a bathroom, but if you've been to, you know, the US ones, again, somebody is constantly in the bathroom cleaning, like starting at one end, coming through, starting at one end, coming through. We didn't see people cleaning the bathrooms very often, yet they were immaculate. I saw a little girl wiping down the counter, like from the water that was splashed over, because they just trained their kids young to be respectful and to clean up after themselves. And so it was really neat because it was just, again, it was like such a nice facility, but then it was also just kept up without somebody having to be there doing it constantly. And it was way cleaner than any of the ones that I've seen where somebody's constantly going through. And if you've been to Disney, you know what I mean. Like there's always a cleaning person, like start at the back, they work their way forward, refill, start at the back, work their way forward. They're constantly, that's like their whole job. It's just all day cleaning that bathroom. You just didn't see that. I saw a couple times people refilling stuff. That was it. So I thought that was really cool. The next thing that was, we're going to get away from talking about bathrooms and cleaning and throw up. Okay. Now we're going to get into some of the other fun things. The rides in the US, most of them go to your right. You go around Jungle Cruise to your right. You go around like so many of the rides to your right. And we noticed that there, most of them go to your left. And I don't know if it's because they drive on the opposite side of the street or what, but they all seem to go to their left. So it always felt really weird going on some of the rides because we were like, We're backwards. Wait, what? And then like on Pirates, you got off before the little incline thingy. So you got off and then it was like Haunted Mansion where it had the moving escalator going up. So you got off down here, not where you board like we do. And then the boat would go up. So it was kind of interesting. It was just some of those little things that were really different. I'm going to do a whole video on some of the rides and how different they were and which ones I totally recommend making sure you get to and ones that maybe you could pass on another video. So if you want to see that, be sure you subscribe and turn on that bell notification. But the main thing was just how a lot of them went to the left instead of the right. So that was number 3 difference. Number 4 was they have so many parades and little micro shows, like constantly. Literally first thing in the morning, people were lining up at both Disney Seas and Disney Tokyo. They were lining up constantly lining up. The parades were very short, but they had, I would say, 4 or 5 performances of the same parade, or another parade might be thrown in there in the middle. They just had so many parades and so many shows that it didn't matter what time of day it was, people were lined up to watch the next one, which made it kind of hard sometimes to get around. And because there were so many parades, it kind of sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, another parade. We got to try to work our way around. You got to get, herded this way or that way. But it was just insane how many parades there were. And like I said, they were very short, but the people loved them. So lots of parades, lots of shows. We did not go and actually sit down for any parades because of the fact that people sat down so early. And they were so short. So we were like, okay, so you're going to sit down for 2 hours to watch maybe a 10-minute parade. Like, I guess if you had an annual pass or something you really wanted to do, but we could usually get a sight or a visual, pretty good area from where we were. So it wasn't so bad. Then I kind of talked about this one in number 1. So that was number 4. Number 5 was how well behaved the kids were. Like I said, I kind of talked about that a little bit in number 1. Just we didn't see temper tantrums. We didn't see kids climbing on stuff. It was just very different. And everybody is a lot quieter. Like they're still having fun, but it's just a lot quieter and it's just a really different environment. And watching the kids, I think we saw one or two like little kids throwing temper tantrums, and they were micro kids, and literally the parents would go over there and talk to them and they'd be up and done. And it was just like, just the behavior was very different, just their lifestyle, their culture, and how what they're expected to do. And so for my husband and I as parents, we were watching that, and we did have a couple times where the Japanese people that did speak English that worked there came up and said, oh my gosh, we were watching your kids, they're so well behaved and stuff like that. So that was a pretty good feeling, because I was looking at their kids thinking, wow, they probably look at my kids and think they're wild because we have a different culture, a different way we raise our kids, but yet they thought they were pretty well behaved. So that made me feel good, because I was looking at theirs going, oh my gosh, like these kids are amazing. So number 6 was the snack food on general was about 40 to 45% cheaper than in the US. Like a big box of popcorn was like $3.50, estimating there. And popcorn is huge there. All the different flavors of popcorn. They have a ton of different barbecue, curry, salt, pepper, milk chocolate, caramel, like everything you can imagine. They had so many different popcorns. And like the churros, they didn't have like our traditional churros. They had sweet potato. They had like a purple one, which I show you guys how some of my reactions to some of these snacks in some of our vlog videos, and just things like that. So their pumpkin ice cream soft serve was delicious, but everything was like around $3. Like all of the snacks were around $3. So for a family of 4 to have a snack, normally at Disneyland, we don't get snacks because they're so expensive. We're like $5. That's $20 for us just to grab a snack. You know what I mean? So it was kind of nice to have that break and be able to say to the kids, yeah, you can grab a snack, because it was actually affordable. So that was nice. The regular food on the menu, we didn't eat there. I think we ate once there, but we pretty much did snacks there because the food was not that amazing and the prices weren't that much better. So we pretty much went to the Xperi like center, which is kind of like their downtown Disney. So we went there and ate most of the time because we had a monorail pass. So we would just leave the park, go grab food, and then hop back on the monorail and go back to the park. And it took all of a few minutes. It wasn't a big deal. So again, I will talk more about transportation, food, and all of that in another video. So be sure you subscribe if you want to know my thoughts on all of those things. But yeah, that was awesome. And number 7, I touched it on. And number 6 was the variety of popcorns. Like I said, there were so many amazing kinds. I can't even go through like the list of all the different kinds of popcorns there were, because you would see barbecue was another one. That one did not smell good. And I was really surprised. Like my kids loved the curry one. Like they went back and wanted more. They loved the curry one. It was sprinkled with green curry powder of some sort. And it was absolutely delicious. I wanted to try the milk chocolate one, but the line was crazy. And the caramel one smelled amazing, but the lines were usually crazy. Like the Japanese people are obsessed with their flavored popcorns. Like they have huge buckets that they get and they refill, and everybody's carrying them around, and it's just like they love it, and the line goes on forever to get to them. So the variety of popcorns were amazing.
How big their things are like the size of my mom's computer.
Oh yeah, like the buckets were big. So yeah, so that was kind of something that was different that we don't usually see here in the US. Number 8 was on the rides, you were not supposed to videotape. Okay, so there's a couple rides where I took some pictures or I took a really short clip of video, but in general, you weren't supposed to videotape. If they saw you with your camera out, they were like, nope. They would go give you the big Japanese, no, no. The big X, no. So whenever they saw me with my camera, they'd be like, no. And I'm like, okay, I'll put it down. But they were different. And security was really nice. Like I have like a tripod, but I was holding it like a selfie stick. And so he was like, oh, you can't have that. You can't have that. And he's like, no. And then I was like, it's a tripod. And I'd read ahead of time. I knew tripods were okay. And he was like, tripod, yes. Selfie, no. And I'm like, okay. He's like, put it in your bag. And I'm like, okay. So I put it in my bag. It wasn't like I had to go back to the hotel. And the security line was all of like 5 minutes. It wasn't bad at all. So I thought that was interesting. No videos allowed on the rides. The next one was the Fast Pass wait. Number 9 is the Fast Pass wait distribution was very different than in the US. Like normally in the US, if it's an hour wait, your Fast Pass is going to be about an hour and a half to 2 hours after that time. With this, it seems like what they did was they allotted so many Fast Passes to go out for each hour of the day. So like doing 9 to 10 o'clock, you get 10 Fast Passes allotted out. Or I'm like totally making up numbers, but that's kind of like the idea. And then once those were gone, they moved to the 10 o'clock. So even though the line was only an hour and a half long, or in some cases only 20 minutes long, the Fast Pass, like we went at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning to get a Fast Pass for the Monsters Hide and Seek. And the line was only 40 minutes, I think, but our wait time to come back was like 5 o'clock that night. So that didn't make sense. And we could still get another Fast Pass in 2 hours, like you can here, but it didn't quite calculate out, So I kind of, after the first day, I was able to kind of learn the system and be like, okay, so it doesn't necessarily go by how long the wait is. It goes by how many they distribute per hour. So I could see when on an app, which I will share with you guys in my tips videos, the app I used, I could see when they were distributing, what time the next Fast Pass was. So I'm like, okay, well, Monsters was for 5. Well, Buzz is now distributing for like around 4:30. So we could go grab a Buzz Fast Pass, but we got that like around 1 or 2, So it seems like the more popular rides, obviously go quicker, but they only distribute so many per hour versus the wait time. That's kind of what I saw happening. I don't know if that's how they're doing it, but that's kind of what it looked like. So it was, like I said, it was a little bit different and a little bit of a learning curve there at the beginning. But if it's a ride that you want to definitely get on, you need to get there first thing in the morning, because like I said, those Fast Passes for those popular rides, which I will do a video again, like I said, on which rides I think you should definitely catch, and versus the ones that, like if you want to do it, you got to get there soon because they're going to be gone. So, and that was it. Fast Passes ran out really quick, by 2 o'clock probably. There was no more Fast Passes for any rides. The popular rides by noon. And we went when it was slow. So I can imagine when it was busy how hard it would be to get on some of those rides. And number 10 was no pushing and shoving. I know when we get out, or you're going on a line or anything like that at Disneyland, it can get crazy, which is another reason I usually like having our stroller is I know my kids would be safe in the stroller and I could plow through a crowd. That sounds horrible, without them getting knocked over, because when I was holding their hands, people didn't care if you were holding your kids' hands. They would still try to push between us. And so that would drive me crazy. And it's like, I always felt so much better with them in a stroller, but that wasn't the case there. A lot of their lines started out as like a herd. Like it would be a huge line and everybody would kind of like herd in there. And then it would go into 2 lines, but there was no like pushing, shoving, I got to get one more ahead of you kind of deal. And that's generally speaking. Of course, there was 1 or 2 here or there that did do that. But generally speaking, most people just, it wasn't all packed together. It was just kind of like, they just let each other flow in. And it was really interesting because you didn't have that crazy, you know, pushing and shoving. And that was the same thing like doing parades and after shows and stuff or leaving the park. We noticed that there wasn't that pushing and shoving mentality, which is interesting because I've heard like trying to get on the train and stuff like that. It can be very pushy and stuff, but it wasn't the case when we were at Disneyland. So again, we went in a very non-busy season, so that might've been part of it. But I just feel like the people were very respectful and it wasn't always like pushing and shoving. So those were our 10 big differences that we noticed. What do you have to share? What was your thing?
So everybody was at Tokyo. They couldn't really see me, so they kind of did, and they were like, "Oh," they're kind of being like sorry. But the person at America, when we came back, she literally just stopped right in front of me, and I couldn't move. So I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna just run into you." And she just glared.
Oh, in the airport? Yeah.
And I noticed people do stare there, but like there's like. Oh,
I think because of like how cute you were. Yeah, like if people didn't realize like he was attached to me and I was holding his hand, they would be like, oh, sorry. Like, you know, and apologize if they kind of bumped or separated us. And yeah, as soon as we got back into the US, we're at the airport and I'm holding, I think I was holding his hand or so, and we were walking through the airport and a lady like comes and stops right in front of him and like won't move like to the side, even though she sees that we're walking together and I'm trying to keep him close to me. And it was like, welcome back, right? Like crazy LAX. Okay. But you know, I mean, I'm not saying that like in a rude way, because I know that's not always the case with everybody. I just am saying that was the experience that we had. And unfortunately, you know, coming back, we were like, oh, great. You know, I don't know. I kind of wish that we had a little more of the Japanese culture in our country, because it definitely did seem more respectable and more enjoyable in that sense. So there you guys go. Those were our 10 big differences that we saw. I hope you guys found this helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see some of my other tips and ideas and things that we did on our Disney Tokyo trip, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification. We've got, like I said, some vlog videos just kind of showing our day, what we did, as well as a bunch of videos on the rides I think you should do, some of the transportation and food ideas, things like that, hotel that we stayed at, all those different things and planning videos. So be sure to stick around, hit that bell notification so you don't miss any of them.
Please like the video and subscribe will be down there.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a beautiful, blessed day.
Bye.
Bye.